stretch to the edge. What a hurl by Jackson! Highlight reel touchdown! The Steelers going to be moving the drive. Louisville, national champion.
Hello, welcome, everybody. I am your host tonight, Kyle, joined by Patrick, Ross, and Josh. And we are back with another episode of the Third Banner Pod. We've got a lot in store for you tonight. We've got some updates later on tonight in football recruiting, but we also are going to rank the roster for basketball from 1 to 11. We compiled a composite of all of our rankings in the one, and we will break down each player. But first, how are you boys doing tonight?
It's a nice Wednesday, man. It's not too hot out tonight. Was able to walk the dog without sweating, so that was a positive. Pumped to go over the roster tonight. Got to do kind of a deep dive when I was researching stuff. More of a deep dive than I've already done. So yeah, no, man, it's a good night to be a Cardinal fan.
Always.
Yeah, no, I agree, Pat. You know, it's middle of the summer, just enjoying the nice weather here in Iowa. And yeah, I think that's a really good point too, Pat, about like really diving into the stats for this team, like for this exercise, like really got me excited. I mean, not that I haven't been excited already, but like, I mean, there's a lot to like there. So we'll get into a little bit later, but yeah, doing good.
Your mic's got a little bit of like I can't explain it, but like, do you hear it? Yeah. I don't know if it's because you're a little far away or what, but it sounds a little bit quiet in a way. I can't explain it.
I'm a little muffled.
Muffled. That's a good word for it. So I don't know if there's a setting or something that got altered. But I just want to let you know that up front.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
But welcome back, everybody, or welcome back to another episode in the chat. Ezra, always good to see you, man. Always positive and uplifting. First message in the chat almost every night. Anthony, Robert, nice to see you guys in here tonight. So I don't know about you guys, but this time of year can be a struggle. It can be an absolute struggle to find like a lot of good content. So we try to compile a list of slides and stuff where like we have pictures that go with as we talk and descriptions of each player. So hopefully visually pleasing to the eye as we talk about the roster and break it down. I did want to say, you know, I'm excited about Friday. I don't know if Ross will be able to get back in. Once again, he's having internet problems. So hopefully he'll come back in and be able to join us. But I know on Friday, Ross, myself, and Ty Elliott will be on the Mike Rutherford Show at 3:06 p.m. is when it starts. Big X Sports Radio, 1450, 96.1 FM. And I was on there Monday. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought Jacob Lane did a really good job hosting. So I don't know if anybody in the chat or anybody got to hear it at all on Monday, or on re-listen. But it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've ever helped host a radio show and covered 3 hours of content. But it was cool. It was fun, and I'm looking forward to the guys getting in there with me and having like a Third Banner Takeover episode on there. So I'm excited about that.
Definitely, yeah. I listened. I have a hard time listening to a whole show just because work and stuff. But I made sure to close my door and turn it on at 3:06, and I only got interrupted once for a call, but listened to the whole show, man. And you guys killed it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So with that being said, I didn't know if you guys want to go ahead and get into this basketball breakdown or not. Anything before we get to that? We'll get to the football stuff later on tonight, but I wanted to start with the basketball stuff.
Yeah, we also had a couple of baseball commitments we'll probably talk about after the basketball stuff too, just to pinpoint for your baseball fans here. I saw Anthony was excited about those. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't know as much about the baseball stuff, but I did, from what I understand from you guys, it sounds like Dan may be changing up his philosophy and landing some guys that in the last few years we haven't landed. So things may be on the turnaround, it sounds like.
Yep. All right, I'm going to pull up
does my mic sound better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead,
Sounds
Pat.
much better.
All right, I'm going to pull up our little slideshow here. So yeah, what we did was I asked the 6 of us in the pod group, so that'd be the 3 of us on here: Kyle, me, Josh, Ross,
Connor,
Ty, and Connor, to rank their most impactful players for the 2024-25 season on the basketball roster from 1 to 11. That doesn't necessarily mean, the player with the most potential or the player that's currently the most talented. It's who you think is going to be, most impactful for U of L this year. And then I compiled those ratings. Whoever was number 1 in a rating will get 1 point, 2 points. Compiled all 6 of our ratings. Whoever had the least amount of points amongst all of us was ranked number 1 all the way down to number 11. And then I also, based off of people's stats from last year, looking at College of Charleston's stats from last year and kind of trying to guesstimate what our total team stats would be. I tried to do predicted stats for each of the players too. Now, some of them you guys will probably be like, this guy's an idiot. That's fine. We'll see what they look like at the end of the year. Maybe we'll have a quick segment on an episode to see how bad my predicted stats were.
Well, and just know this is a composite list, so it doesn't mean every one of us voted for the same best player, same second best player, same third. It's just averaging them all out based on the point system.
Right. So the first couple guys we'll go through are the transfer guys.
The redshirt guys.
The redshirt guys. So first we have Ali Khalifa, the center from BYU. He's 6'11", 270 pounds. He'll be a senior this year, obviously a redshirted senior next year, assuming he keeps his red shirt and doesn't play this year. Last year, BYU, he was injured most of the year with a knee issue, but he averaged 19.4 minutes per game, and in those minutes, 5.7 points, 4 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 0.3 steals, 0.6 blocks, 1.1 turnovers, shot 38.6% from the field, 31.5% from three-point range, and 60.1% from the free throw line. Obviously, we project that he's going to redshirt this year, but I don't know what you guys think. I think the redshirt is going to help him recover, and I think he'll be a big piece to next year's team.
Well, Pat, the thing that jumps off to me is 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. I mean, that's awesome for your starting point guard. So to have that out of one of your bigs is awesome. I'm not sure that any of the other stats, as I look through doing this exercise with all the players, that much else stuck out to me about Khalifa. I think because, as you mentioned, he was injured for a lot of last year. So there's just not a lot of recent tape to watch. But yeah, the assist to turnover ratio is the thing that jumped out at me for him.
Yeah, so Ali Khalifa, learning that he played most of last year injured, same as Josh said, it did kind of change my perception some. I do hope that when he comes back from injury, he's able to become more efficient, because the shooting percentage, I'm not a big fan of it.
Right.
I also think for his size, I was a bit surprised when I did watch a couple of BYU games last year. I wasn't really looking for him in particular, because at that time I wasn't thinking hey, this is going to be a guy that comes here. I had no idea, obviously. So the only thing I could remember was I would watch him and be like, man, this guy could be doing a whole lot more with his with his build and his height than he does. He tries to be a guard, but he's really not. Now, that being said, he does, after rewatching some film on him after he committed here, and actually before he committed, and when it was rumored he was going to visit here, I looked into him and I really liked his vision. He has very elite, I would call it elite vision, as far as being able to share the basketball for his size. And so he can almost become like that point center type of position, but he has to clean up some things as far as handling the ball if he's going to do that, and the shooting percentage. And I'd like to see him bang down low more. So I'm hoping he gets in better shape. Yeah. He wasn't in great shape this year. Some of that could have been because of that injury. And I'm hoping he has a little bit more explosiveness and ability to get to the rim at times, because people said, well, he could shoot the three, but he shot 31.5%. So that's not good. It's like, you can shoot the three, but you need to be efficient. So I'm hopeful that a year of redshirting will help improve some of the things that he needs to improve. Defensively, he struggled a lot, but again, that could be because of the injury. And I'm hopeful that he's able to improve some in that regard as well, to complement the things he's good at, like the passing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you guys hit it. Awesome to have a big-time passing big. I mean, you think back to, your Gorgies, your David Padgetts, guys that could, you sit at the top of the post and could find people cutting, find outside shooters. So, he brings that to the table next year. You hope he increases his mobility so he can play a little bit better defense. And obviously, like Kyle said, you'd like to see your big guys, your fives, have, field goal percentages over 50%. So 38.6 isn't going to cut it. Even if you are, a 3-point shooter, we still need that back to the basket game and a five that's going to be efficient from the floor. So those are the big things I think you look forward to, and you hope he works on it as he gets into shape and has this year to really just train and get used to the system. All right, so we'll go on. You'll notice here, this is an awesome thing done by Josh, but all the players are listed here, and after we mention them, they drop off the screen. So our next guy, another guy we think is going to redshirt, according to the coaching staff, played for Pat Kelsey at College of Charleston. Kobe Rogers, he's a guard, 6'3", 180 pounds, a senior, again, he'll redshirt this year. He averaged 21.7 minutes, 9.7 points, 2.2 assists, 4.6 rebounds. Was a good defensive player on ball. Got a steal, over a steal per game, 1.5 turnovers. Actually was very efficient, 50% from the field, 45% from three, and 79.8% from the free throw line. He was great in the tournament for College of Charleston last year. He made the Colonial Athletic Conference tournament team. And like we said, we think he's going to redshirt. I'm pumped about him because I think he's a guy that's going to come in here next year. He'll be the leader. We're going to lose a lot of people. He knows the system. He's played with Pat Kelsey this past couple of years. And he looks like a knockdown outside shooter, man. And yeah, I'm pretty pumped about seeing him play healthy next year, as long as he fully recovers from that leg injury.
So this kid, in the multiple games I watched after we hired Pat Kelsey, when I was fishing for games, he really stuck out to me. Obviously, he had a bad injury in the Alabama game. That's why he's redshirting. It will all depend on his recovery from that injury, how well he recovers. Is he able to get back to his old form? Because he was really in a groove towards the end of the year, that last month or so of the season. He really got in a good groove, and so you just hope he's able to reestablish that. But if he is, this is a really good player, an experienced player. We've had guys that can provide he can provide the kind of role that some guys in the past have had. I think of like a guy like a Christian Cunningham type of guard, where the numbers weren't like jumping off the screen, but he was a solid player and could give you positive productivity and could score at times in key moments. I could see Kobe Rogers being that kind of player next, not this coming up season, but the following season, if he can recover health wise. I mean, 45% from three, that's scorching. So I assume that will come down a little bit, because that is
that's crazy.
Would be like, if he continued to average that, would be like way like that's like flamethrower, unless he's just not shooting a ton of threes, which I think he did shoot quite a bit. So he'd be flamethrowing if he kept that rate. But if he can keep it around 40%, that's all that's great.
Yeah, I think the thing I thought when I was looking through tape on him was like, man, I really wish he was on this year's team, because he would be such a perfect fit to come in behind Chucky. So that was my first thought, was like, man, I wish he was playing for us. But the other thought, I mean, it's not even really related to Kobe. It's like, there's some part of me that has trouble really getting super excited about him at this point, because with the transfer portal and everything, like, is he going to end up leaving? Like, I don't know. Maybe we'll recruit some additional guards. And so for me, I'm treating him more as like almost a recruit than a guy who's actually on our team, because I just don't know a year from now what our situation is going to look like, what his situation is going to be like. So yeah, there's a lot to like about him. Like I said, I really wish he was on this year's team. The 80% free throw shooting, I think, is also really important for your guard. Like, you want them to be able to get fouled and go to the line and hit those shots. So I think, while there's a lot to like there, I also I have a hard time getting excited about it, to be honest with you, because the year just seems so far away right now.
That's what it is. It is really hard to get pumped about. It's kind of, I have the same thought about when you hear like, oh, we're getting a number one running back in a 2026 class to visit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it's so far away. Trent with the hot takes as usual. I don't know about that, brother, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, and also, Trent, these guys aren't ranked in our little system, because we knew they were going to redshirt, so that's why we're starting with them.
Ross, good to see you in here, man.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know what my son's done to this computer or this camera or whatever. But I had to literally reboot everything. So,
well, good.
And I know he's been on it, because
he's got an OnlyFans account, huh?
When I logged on an account, I logged on the computer, his account's there first. So I know there's something there.
True.
Pat, we had the same thought. I was like, oh boy, staying out of the.
Y'all know me. If you could hear me without this mic on the other side, I'm about to lose. I'm about to lose it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you're here just in time for the actual rankings.
Yeah.
We're going now, transitioning to the 11 players that are going to play this year for Louisville. And I'm sorry to an Aiden McCool, you did not make the list on our top 11.
Well,
if you watch the pod, I hope that doesn't discourage you from watching it in the future.
Because you're short and white.
We just did. Oh man, we just did the scholarship guys.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
And I also ran out of room on the front screen. So
front screen,
you're short and white.
Honestly, nobody would have noticed until Pat pointed it out.
Well, Aiden might have noticed if he was watching.
Yeah, when he listened.
All right.
Yeah, I guess we
made it to our top 11.
Let's dive into it.
Here we go. So number 11, and I will say this is probably the one guy that was the same ranking for everybody, is Frank Anselm Ibe, out of Georgia last year, made a deep run in the NIT tournament. Center, 6'10", 215 pounds. It'll be his fifth year in college this year. Only averaged 9.1 minutes, and in those minutes, 2.6 points, barely above 0 assists, 0.3 assists, 2.1 rebounds, 0.1 steals, 0.7 blocks, 0.3 turnovers, was efficient when he was in there, 62.8% from the field, did not attempt a three-pointer last year, and shot 62.5% from the free throw line. My projected stats for him in 24-25 are just under 3 minutes, 1.9 points, 1.8 rebounds, and not much else going on. So what do you guys think that Frank is going to bring to the table for this team this year?
Joe, I've always wondered. I went back and forth on if it's Ibe or eBay because I heard it pronounced different on multiple highlight videos. But eBay is what I did think it. I heard more of. So other people must have just been mispronouncing it as well. But Pat, to answer your question, you got to have guys at the end of the bench that are plug and play guys when guys get in foul trouble. And they just have to come in, hopefully play some good defense, get some rebounds, and putbacks. That's all this is. And then on top of that, you just hope he's a good locker room guy, which I've heard he's nothing but good things about his attitude and locker room presence. And when you get to the end of the bench like that, that's very important. So you want a serviceable big man that you need in certain situations if guys get in foul trouble, where he can just hold his own for a little bit. And that's what he's coming here to do. I think he understands his role, and I'm good with it.
I mean, to make a comparison, this is the Akoya Gal addition to the MAC first year roster. That's kind of what you're looking at. You know, you're looking at a guy he's got college experience. His body's aged and matured a little bit. He's had some run in college games, so he understands the pace. He understands the physicality of play. Any more than that, if we're relying on him to get more minutes, then we've had something probably go wrong as far as big men. Somebody's gotten hurt, so that or something's happened.
Foul trouble.
Yeah, so like this guy, he understands this is the type of a player. He understands his role, but he also understands, and the staff has a good understanding with him that if he's called upon, he's expected to go out there and produce the best that he can. So it's a solid addition, but it's the end of the bench guy.
Yeah. I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Pat. Oh, I was just gonna say, when I watched the Georgia highlights, he brings really good energy on the bench. Like, he is ready. He's up and cheering. Like, he's ready to go. So you need those guys. I think Kyle mentioned he's a good locker room guy. Like, I honestly couldn't tell you, but in the clips that I watched, like, he brings good energy from the bench. So he's a senior guy, like Ross mentioned. So I think he's the type of guy you need as like your 10th, 11th, 12th guy on the bench. And I think he's good for that role.
Ty, how'd you beat Trent to this troll job? Best Georgia player to wear number 5 ever. How did you beat? I mean, I know Trent's jealous that you didn't think of it first.
That was good.
Yeah. So, there's Pat. He was shooting his kid off. So Pat, what about you, man?
Here.
No, I think you guys hit it, man. I think it is good to get a guy that's played Power 6 basketball and, has 10 minutes, 9 minutes a game at Georgia in the SEC. It's good injury insurance. It's good foul insurance. It's not like you're going to a guy that doesn't have any experience if we experience some of those issues on our team. So I think Frank's important for that reason. He did have a pretty good NIT run. He got some more clock in the NIT, and he played pretty well. So maybe there's a little bit untapped late bloomer, as Joe said in there, that you can get it even a little bit more from than what I'm projecting here. But yeah, no, he's an 11th guy, so you can't expect a ton from him. And I think this, if you're looking at tiers, the tier he's in is below even the next guy on this list. So let's go on.
By the way, if you haven't yet, like this video, please. It helps the algorithm, and subscribe. We are 96% of the way to 1,000. At least we were when I started this show tonight. When we started, we were at, I believe, 960 subscribers. So the road to 1,000 has never appeared to be closer. We can see the finish line. Not that we're literally finished, because we'll keep going, but that's like our big hurdle. So if you like what you hear, you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the Third Man Pod.
It's like that girl that you're setting up for prom, where like we're about to ask. We're about to ask.
That's right. And I'll tell you, number 10 on this list really wants you to like and subscribe. And that's because number 10 is our freshman forward, Connie Roofs. Kanai Roofs. 6'8", 200 pounds. Played at IMG Academy last year. Big time prep school. Sends a ton of 4 or 5-star dudes over the past couple decades to the collegiate level. Now, I don't know if these stats are for his full year, but it's hard to find high school stats. And I found a site that said through 16 games or in some 16-game period, Roofs averaged 11.8 points, 1.8 assists, 5.1 rebounds, 0.7 steals, 1.2 blocks, turned the ball over 1.6 times, and again was efficient at the high school level, 56% from the field, 33.3% from three, 67.9% from the free throw line. He was a consensus 4-star recruit and was selected to the 2024 Allen Iverson Classic. And these are the projected stats that I think and hope I'm wrong about, because I think this kid's so talented, but there's only so many minutes that go around. I had him at just under 5 minutes, 2.6 points, a half an assist, 1.1 rebounds, negligible steals and blocks, and turnovers. So I'm pretty pumped about this guy, but I want to hear what you guys think. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think with freshmen, you have to kind of think of them the same way that you think of like a rookie in the NFL. Like it's a lottery ticket, really, because those stats that he had in high school may or may not transfer over to the college level. They might get a lot better. We don't know, but you don't know what to expect at this point. And then so you say, well, how can I take some of the variables out of it then? Like, how do I know that this lottery ticket's more likely to hit than the next one? Well, he's a consensus 4-star player, which the ratings are not perfect, but it's somewhat of a guide. And then you look, he played at IMG, which is a big school, like you mentioned, Pat. So that helps. The level of competition's better. And he put up good numbers on a really good team. I think IMG is the school this year that has like a 7'7" guy on their roster. So yeah, they're dominating right now with him. But yeah, so I think looking at the caliber of competition, what he was rated, and his stats at that level, I think he could be a really solid contributor for us. I just think you're going to run into a minutes issue because we have so many. I feel like everyone is like 6'6" to 6'8". 200 pounds on our roster. Well, and so, I think it's just hard.
I meant to make this point before we even started and forgot. And so here people go. And I knew this was going to happen. Guys, we have like 10 of these guys are really close in talent. I mean, really close. So here's the thing. If Kanai Roos, who we're basing this off of him coming from high school and the rest of these guys being poor, if he's not 10th, who's 10th? Because if you tell me it's James Scott, half of you are going to throw a fit about that and say, not throw a fit, but you're going to throw your arms up and you're going to go, how can you put him 10th after everything we've heard? If you put Rain Smith 10th, you're going to hear, what? He's a sharpshooter. We've got nothing but great reports. from about Rain Smith. So then you go to what, Corin Johnson? Is he going to be your 10th best player? The guy that was the 6th man of the year in the Pac-12? Abubakar Traore, who had 2 or 3 triple doubles last year and held his own in the biggest games on the schedule against teams like Michigan and Arizona. I mean, it's okay to disagree, but somebody's got to be 10th. And what you'll start to realize as we go down this list is they're all really close in talent. So it's not a diss on Kenai Ruse to be listed 10th here. He could end up being better than that. But if you're the 10th best player on this team, you're pretty damn close to like the 3rd or 4th best player, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think it's no offense to Frank, but I think once you get past him, it's really, you got to consider everything amongst these guys. And if I was ranking, most pro potential, I think Roofs would probably be number 1. Maybe James Scott's up there. But you'll see as we go through this, the amount of seniors, 5th-year guys, even I think we've got a 6-year guy in there, it is crazy. And it's just hard for a freshman to make that jump to compete for minutes against all these veteran guys that aren't just veterans, but are impactful veterans at their last stops. So, you hope that Roofs does come in and he's one of these crazy talented freshmen that you can't keep off the court. But with the veterans we have, it's hard to imagine him getting a ton of run. And so then you hope that he has a good time here, he develops, and we tell him, hey, next year you're a big guy in our rotation, and he stays here. I mean, those are my big thoughts on.
I didn't really give a take on him, but I have all the hope in the world for Kenai Ruse. And he's a guy, if we do, which I hope we don't, but if we do have an injury in front of him, he's a guy I feel like can get an increase in minutes if it's, in his position. And I won't be too upset because I think he has the potential to play. I don't think he's going to play 25 minutes a game, I'll be honest, but I think he could. I think he can play 25 minutes a game and be an impact player. Now, he's going to have some learning curve as a freshman. Some of them have a quicker learning curve than others, but I do think that he has all the potential, like you said, to be the most, like the best pro prospect, him or James Scott. I would agree with that, Pat. Either one of those two as a potential NBA player down the road, they have the skill sets. So it'll all just depend on how much he puts together. I can't wait to hear the updates in the offseason about what he's able to do versus some of these experienced guys.
Yeah. And before we go on to the next person here, I mean, what's your guys' thoughts here? Like,
I didn't hear Ross' thought about Kenai yet.
Yeah, and Ross, you can tell me what you think and give your thoughts on this question. I mean, he definitely starts for last year's team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think he definitely would have worked his way into the starting lineup, no question. I think he would have been playing next to Huntley Hatfield last year. I think it's a testament to what Pat Kelsey and this staff have done to upgrade the talent of this roster this year. To get somebody like him and have him somewhere in this tier of the roster is very telling, and it's also very promising. Like Kyle said, I wouldn't be disappointed, or that's not the right words, but if he were somehow to make his way into playing prominent minutes this year, I think that it is something along the lines of a Montrezl Harrell that we could learn to love and like, because he has that kind of talent. Like he's a guy that's going to show that he belongs on the court at all times. He just needs an opportunity. Right now, I think he's looking at a situation where he's got a player or two in front of him, so the minutes are going to be hard to come by. But I think the sky's the limit for this kid. Like, I really do believe that.
Yep, I agree. Any other thoughts on Roofs before we move on?
Nope, I agree with Ross.
We're good.
Oh,
I agree
awesome.
with Josh, who agrees with Ross.
All right, so now we get to our top 9, and I'll say and we'll show our individual rankings at the end, but this is where you start to see some differentiation in our rankings.
Yeah, so again, these are composite rankings.
Right.
So some of us ranked them this way. Actually, none of us may have ranked the guy exactly where he lands towards the bottom. That's just where he ended on average.
I'm going to interrupt. Who the hell is Bane on our picture right here?
That's Hadley.
Yeah, that's
Bane.
Yeah, because he's got
That's Hadley.
Devon Hadley. Yeah, that was his thing last year. He wore that almost all season.
I could not use that picture for him. There's no way.
No, yeah, that's the only way I can ever picture him in my head when I think about the roster and he pops up in my head, always wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so number 9, and this is going to be surprise some people, but again, I think that the separation between like 5 and 9, especially maybe 4 and 9, is like minuscule.
Yes.
But Rain Smith, hopefully he's going to make it rain this year for the Cards. He again is a guy from College of Charleston, played with Pat Kelsey last year, 6'2" guard, 190 pounds. Another senior again. Like I said, a bunch of veteran players on this team. Last year, he averaged about 26 minutes, 12.8 points, 1.7 assists, 2.1 rebounds, half a steal, 0.1 blocks. I guess he got a block somewhere during the season. 0.7 turnovers, shot 41% from the field, 39.4% from three-point range, sharpshooter, and was very efficient from the free throw line at 85.5%. Was all Colonial Athletic Conference second team, made the all-tournament team, and was actually the tournament MVP in the Colonial Athletic Conference tournament last year. So I've got him. He's going to take a big minutes drop, in my opinion, just because there's, again, not a ton of minutes to go around based off of what these guys played last year, but 15.7 minutes, 7.5 points, just under an assist, 1.7 rebounds, and then again, negligible steals and blocks, about a half a turnover. So I'll give my take on Rain first. Again, man, it's hard to put somebody who was this good for their team last year at number 9. And I think Rain, I don't think he's going to start, although maybe he does because he knows the system, but he's going to be that Ryan McMahon off the bench, comes in, gives you energy, gives you big time 3-point shooting. I think he's can give you more than a Ryan McMahon because of his height and his athleticism. But yeah, man, I think he's a key cog for this team. And he's going to be the guy that when we need a bucket, when we need an offensive run, that's when he's going to get the majority of his minutes, I think. What do you think, Ross?
It's going to be very important for the staff to be able to identify, I think, when there's potential for us to go on runs. That's, you don't want to insert him when we're on runs. You want to insert him when you feel like there's, think about it like tennis, right? And you've got a break point, right? You want to put this player, you want to put Rain Smith in when you feel like there's a break point, when you're about to capture momentum and lead on a drive. You want to insert him in there to maximize his effect. And to me, that's how I think that you're going to see him get used. There obviously will be different times where you might see, different based on foul situations and everything else. But situationally, like when things are going right, I want to see him put in the game when you're trying to bury teams, you're trying to put them away. That's when I want to see him in the game.
I'm excited about Rain, but I do think it's going to be hard for him to get the minutes he got at Charleston. But in the games I watched, like I'll give you a good example, the Florida Atlantic game when Dusty May was their coach. They ended up winning that game by like 14 points, but that score is very deceiving to me because when Rain Smith got hurt in that game, he went out for the rest of the game, if I remember right. And I think it was like with 15 minutes left in the second half, and Charleston was up with like 15 second half minutes left, and Rain Smith was the reason why. He kept hitting big shot after big shot. To me, this is just a guy who's gritty, who has that toughness factor. The question I have is, will his game translate to a bigger level? Where does he struggle with the better athletes that are in the ACC, that are in our tough non-con schedule? That's my only question. But I see him being used a lot. I see him getting significant minutes because I see him backing up both Chucky and I'm going to assume it's Javon Hadley, but if it's not him, then it would be Corin Johnson. I assume he'll back up both guard positions, so he'll get about 20 minutes a game, maybe not 25, 26 like he got last year. But I see him being a guy, especially his minutes may go up if we're struggling, if our starters aren't hitting threes and they're just struggling shooting the ball. You're going to see this kid come in quicker to be a spark off the bench and be able to provide some shooting because he's clearly our most consistent shooter on the roster.
Yeah,
I mean, one of those guys that's just tough as nails, man. Like when I looked at Marquette this year, and they're not the same type of player, but Tyler Kolek was tough as nails. And the reason I really like that team, and I loved him. I'm not saying Rain will be that good. He's not going to be that. I don't think he's going to be that good. If he's that good, sky's the limit on this team. But
yeah.
I think he has that tougher than nails mentality where he's not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of anyone. He will hit that big shot.
I think he's the like epitome of a team player as well, right? Like he's a good, obviously, I'm not worried about him coming in and making an impact. Like he's a system guy. He knows this system. He's not a guy that's trying to get his shot one-on-one. Like the system is going to get him shots when he's in the game. So they will be there. I think he's a good system fit, and I think he's a really good glue guy and a really good teammate from what it sounds like. So I don't expect him, I expect him to be 100% on board, a positive fit to this roster. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been one of the very first ones to come over from Charleston to follow Pat Kelsey and this staff. So I think they know what kind of player they have in him, and I think he knows what they expect out of him. So, I think this will be a great fit. I think he's going to, I was going back and I was saying that I expect him to be kind of like a system player, but I think he's going to, like Ryan McMahon, he's going to win us some big games this year. He will be called upon. He will have his moments. He's too damn good of a shooter to not shine in the brightest moments. Like he has a skill set that you just cannot replicate. He is a great shooter, and the system's going to get him shots, and he will maximize those moments that he has. It will happen this year. He'll be a fan favorite when it's all said and done. He may not get the minutes that he had last year at Charleston, but he's going to be as important to this team as he was to that Charleston team last year.
All right. Josh, any quick thoughts before we go on to the next?
Yeah, I'll save most of my thoughts because I'll just be honest with you. I had Rain Smith ranked totally differently than the composite. So I'll go into more of my thoughts within there, but he doesn't really fit like any of our old Louisville guys, like exactly. Like he's not Preston Knowles. He's not aggressive enough on offense. He's probably closer to a Ryan McMahon, except I think he has more of those leadership type qualities. Like he's more of a glue guy, like Ross mentioned than that. So he's a really unique player. And like I said, I will make sure I hit all my Rain Smith points when we go through our individual rankings.
Yeah, and to Kyle's point real quick, minutes per game, man, I'm telling you, I filled out minutes for each of these players, and I was at like 230 total minutes, and I was like, crap, I don't know how to cut down minutes for people that played so much at their previous spots. But on to number 8. We've got the other College of Charleston guy that Coach Kelsey brought over, and the guy that people are hyped about this offseason, and that's James Scott. He's, again, one of the younger guys on the team, probably the second youngest to Roofs. A sophomore. He'll play probably the center mostly, 6'11", 210. Was a all-rookie collegiate athletic conference player last year, averaged 5 points, 3.4 rebounds, 1.3 blocks, and was extremely efficient because all his attempts came around the basket. Shot 79.2% from the field, didn't attempt a three-pointer. And the thing that I hope he's worked on this offseason is his free throw shooting, because he shot 44% from there last year. I've got him at 17.1 minutes, 6 points, 6 rebounds, a block and a half a steal. Again, man, having a guy this talented that you hear everybody so excited about, the coaching staff, people that have watched practices all the way down at 8 is kind of crazy. But Josh, why don't you start off this time with your thoughts on James and what he does for us this year?
Yeah, I think he, like you said, Pat, he's that guy that everyone's going to mention all summer as like the one that really stood out. I think Luke Hancock said that after he was at practice, that James Scott was someone he was really impressed with. I know that there's a certain local writer, local to Louisville, who will post a 3 a.m. post about how James Scott like just blew everyone away at some summer practice. Like, you can go ahead and put that in ink. Like, that's definitely going to be coming at some point. But yeah, I think he's somebody who fits Pat Kelsey's offense really well. It's just whether he can make that big leap as a sophomore or not. He has all the potential there. I really agree with what you said earlier, Pat, about how as far as like NBA potential, like, I mean, dude, he's got it. Like, has a ton of athleticism. He's 6'11", and he moves well for 6'11". Like, there's some guys that big who just, they don't run well, and he's not one of those guys. He runs the floor like a gazelle. Like, he's just blocking shots and catching oops. So I love his potential. As far as like, I mean, you're really brave to project his numbers, dude. I have no idea what he's going to be at this year. Like, if you told me he averaged 12 points a game and you told me he averaged 2 points a game, like, honestly, neither one would surprise me that much. I have a lot of faith in him, so I'm thinking he'll be closer to like 6 to 8. But yeah, I think there's a lot to like there, but he's still a little bit of a lottery pick. And he's also still, like, I think just turned 18. So he could make a big jump as he grows into his body as well.
Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, he's a guy he's arguably the hardest worker on the team, has a ton of potential, just needs to develop a bit of a more polished offensive game. That's all I got. Cut down on a little bit.
Yeah.
I just think that this kid, the people that know ball, that see ball, they've seen this kid and they can't stop raving about him. this kid is about to have that like sophomore jump that we're used to seeing from a lot of players, becoming major impact players. So I had James Scott ranked a lot higher. I had him 5th on this list. I think he's going to be a major contributor this year because I trust what the people that know more than I do, and they can't stop raving about the kid. And I think it's going to speak for itself. He's got a ton of NBA potential, according to those same people. And if there was ever a time when this kid was trying to maximize his NBA potential and he's trying to get to that next level, it's this year. So because if he could show he can do it on 2 different programs in a transition the way that he would have, even though it's the same system, being able to come in, the dynamic is completely different here at Louisville than it was at College of Charleston. Be able to show out, and not only show out, but get better and produce even higher. This kid's draft stock has a chance to be through the roof. So I think that's what he's looking at. I think he's going to be a much higher contributor than 8, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And final thing I'll say about Scott that I'm looking forward to this year as we move on is I think James and Chucky in the pick and roll game is going to be fun to watch, man.
Yeah.
I think they're the perfect match for each other in a point guard center mold, man.
And honestly, to add on to that, I think there's a situation where our best lineup is Scott, is James playing next to like Sean Pryor, I think there's so much flexibility there, and the 2 of them complement each other so well, that I think by it comes to the year end and you're looking at what our basic starting 5 is, I think you're going to be looking at Scott and Pryor starting next to one another. I think they're going to be impossible to keep off the court with one another together.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go. We got 8 players left, or 7 players left. So number 7 in our composite rankings was our Noah Waterman out of BYU, second BYU guy. He'll probably play the forward and center, 6'11", 220. Played a lot of minutes last year, 9 points, 5 rebounds, shot 45.7% from the field, was a good shooter for his size outside, 37%, and also shot well at the free throw line at 80.7%. I've got him for about 16 minutes, 6.5 points, 4.5 rebounds. Yeah, man, he's a guy I'm looking forward to. He gives us that, big center that can shoot from outside. He's got a lot of versatility. What do you think, Kyle?
I think he's a really good player, a really good last-second addition. He has ability on his film that I had not seen, with the ability to hit step-back threes, ability to take it from the top of the key and handle the ball all the way to the rim. He's apparently a really hard worker. I do question his ability to guard some of the bigger guys in the front court in the ACC and in the non-con schedule, but I'm really glad he's on the team. Very solid addition.
Yeah, one thing that stands out to me is Coach Kloman in his spaces the other day talking about how this kid's tenacity, and he used I don't remember exactly what the exact verbiage was that he used, but he was like he said something about this kid is going to give you everything to the last breath. You know, like if you were to outwork him, like he would be surprised. Like he's gonna give you everything. And for a new player to come in and already have that kind of respect from a coaching staff is a major feather in the hat, so to speak. So to me, Noah Waterman, I think this is about where he belongs. I think he'll be one of the first guys off the bench, no question. But he's got a chance to be a guy that can move up in this list that has more of an impact than a lot of people, in this pod and amongst the fan base maybe realize, because there's something to be said about that work ethic. It sounds second to none. Like he sounds like he will die on the court.
Yeah. I'll make a couple of really quick points, Pat. 10 points per game in the Big 12. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know right there. Arguably the best basketball conference last season. And he's 6'11" forward from New York. Like, I love the way that New York basketball players play.
Yeah.
So I think him and Pryor will bring.
Moxie for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So I think him and Pryor will be like our. Like, I think you guys are going to love them. I think they're going to be our Bash brothers. They're going to bring an edge that, honestly, we've been missing for a while.
Yeah. You have to think this guy went through a big growth spurt at some point because, like Kyle said, he can handle the ball for a guy that big. And usually guys that can do that used to play guard and then grew like 6 or 7 inches.
I agree with that, Pat, for sure.
So we're down to our final 6. And number 6 on our list is one of my favorite players, and I hope I pronounce his name right since I like him so much. Abubakar Traore, forward at 6'5", 195 pounds, played at Long Beach State and absolutely filled up the stat sheet last year. 12 points, 4.5 assists, 8.4 rebounds, a steal and a half, almost a block and a half. Did turn it over 2.5 times a game. Wasn't a big outside shooter, but was efficient inside the lane at about 52%. A decent free throw shooter at 66.5%. Was the Big West best hustle player. That's interesting that the Big West has an award for that. But obviously, based off of his stats, you can tell he hustles. All Big West first team, Big West outstanding player of the conference tournament, which I believe they won. And I have him at about 22 minutes, still filling up the stat sheet, just a little bit less because he's surrounded by a lot of players. 7 points, 3 assists, 6 rebounds, a steal and a block per game. I am pumped about this guy, so I'm going to go first. He's a guy that I think is going to take a big minutes drop just because, again, he's taking a step up in competition, and there's so much talent on this team. But this guy at 6'5" plays like a Tasmanian devil, man. He's all over the place. He can see the court well, rebounds extremely well for his size, gets after it on the defensive end. And I think he is the ultimate glue guy for this team. He's like a combination of like Dwayne Sutton and Montrezl Harrell, kind of, you know, shorter, but gosh, he gets after it, man. So I'm really, really pumped about him. What do you guys think?
I'm going to go first. So I don't know if, y'all recall the conversation that we had with when we had the State of Louisville guys on. We had Jacob and Presley on, and Presley ran through this list of Traore's games last year. I mean, the guy can make such a tremendous impact on so many different levels. I think, you know, it's been easy for a lot of us to make that Dwayne Sutton comparison, or
Yeah, I don't think he really plays like Sutton.
I don't think so either. To me,
He's a glue
like,
guy. Like
Trent drives me nuts with this. Like, you can have the same impact as Dwayne Sutton without playing the exact same way. That's all the guy means.
Yeah,
great.
It drove me nuts because every time Trent does that in a group chat, every time somebody says he could have a Dwayne Sutton like impact, which means a guy that plays below the rim but somehow feels like he plays above the rim despite being well below the rim. Is a better.
And he's a big time glue guy.
Glue guy coming off the bench, probably junkyard guy, different skill set, more athletic, I would say. Not the shooter Sutton was, but same overall impact.
To me, and again, I'll take what Presley, the stats that he shared with us from his games last year, and then you hear Coach Kloman go into spaces talking about Traore, talking about how long he is, how big his hands are. Like, to me, and to me, when I hear a player that can make that impact in so many different ways, to me, that is a player that has high basketball IQ. And then I hear Coach Kloman come in and say the things that he does. To me, this sounds like a Draymond Green, man. I'm sorry. I know that's such high praise, and that might be setting the kid up for failure. But I think that this kid is going to be too good to keep on the bench. He is going to warrant minutes. What did he get last year? 31 minutes per game. I think he's probably going to get about somewhere pretty close to that this year. I think
that's hard with the minutes we have, man.
I know it is, but I think he's going to separate himself. I think he's going, like, I could see him playing 28 minutes this year. And the reason being is that he can guard multiple positions. Like, he can guard multiple positions, and he's going to give you something. He's going to give you something on this team that not a single other player on this team can give you.
Yeah.
And he can impact the game in so many different ways. Like, I think this kid,
like Dwayne Sutton.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be better than Dwayne Sutton personally.
Yeah,
well, dude, I think
I like your Draymond Green. Draymond Green. I think that's a good one. Sorry.
That is a good call.
Oh, you're good.
That is a really good
I like that only in the sense of, like, my only concern with Traore, like, before I watched his film, was 6'5" for a forward. He's a little short, but, like,
he doesn't play short though.
They posted a video of him, the Louisville basketball Twitter did, and, like, dude, he was doing his vertical leap and he about hit the top. I don't know what the top is, like if it's 12 feet or whatever it was, but I mean, he was like one notch from the top.
Yep.
So if there's anyone who can at 6'5", it would be Traore.
He's got super long ass arms and he's got big hands. Like that matters. That matters, man. Like at 6'5", when you're talking about somebody that's 6'5", and then you hear a coach talk about how long his arms are and how big his hands are, that is telling you something. Like these guys have seen so many kids come through the ranks. Like when somebody stands out like that jumps out. That should jump out to you. Like, and then you see what this kid was able to do, and he's got all the accolades he has. Coming from Long Beach, this kid's going to be a star here, man. He's going to be an absolute star.
Ross likes big hands in basketball like he likes big butts in football.
That's right.
Yeah.
No lies told.
I do have to say, though, Ross, I don't think he's going to get anywhere near 30 minutes, dude.
You'll see on our last slide, Ross, how hard it is to get these people minutes, man.
28
He's going to get 28 minutes.
I think that's going to be hard.
My man Waterman's not getting off the bench.
Yeah, I think that's hard. But I will say before we go on and get into our top five,
I don't know.
he's going to be a fan favorite. He's going to be a guy that when you see him clocking in, the crowd is going to go crazy because this guy
I think he's going to be a starter by the end of the year. I think he's going to be a starter by the end of the year.
All right. Top 5. Number 5, Javon Hadley, Colorado, 5th-year guy, another veteran. Another guy that played a ton of minutes last year, Colorado. 11.6 points, 2.5 assists, 6 rebounds, over a steal. 53.8% from the field, 42% from three-point, and was very good from the free throw line at about 84%. Again, another guy that played a ton of minutes, but there's not enough minutes to go around. I think he personally, about 19 minutes, about 8 points, a little bit over 1 assist per game, 3.6 rebounds, and almost a steal. I think Hadley plays more like Dwayne Sutton, and that'll probably make Trent happy. But, gosh, man, to have this guy as number 5 when he was one of Colorado's best players and played 34 minutes a game is crazy. I will say my one thing, and I know I haven't gone in depth, some of these other guys will, I don't think that he's going to shoot 42% from 3 again this year because the rest of his career, if you look at it, is more in the lower 30s. So maybe not that great of 3-point shooter as his stats last year, but still another great all-around player for this team. What do you guys think?
I think Hadley's another really good glue guy type of player. He can play. He, like Abubakar Traore, can guard multiple positions, can play multiple positions, but they are different players. He is a better shooter overall, but he does not have the length and athleticism Abubakar has. And I see people arguing about which one of these two are better. I think it's a good problem to have.
Oh, absolutely.
I would go with Traore, but I couldn't get upset with someone arguing why Javon Hadley is a better player as well. They're both really good. So that's a good problem to have.
I think Javon Hadley is a bigger version of Chucky Hepburn. I think he's a do-everything player, and I think that he's going to be, again, another player that is very hard to keep off the floor. I think his key to minutes is going to be you hit on it, Pat, talking about that 3-point percentage. If he can show early in the season before we get into ACC play that his 3-point percentage is not a fluke and he can continue to keep knocking down at that percentage, I think that that's going to earn him minutes over a Traore, because Abubakar, like he's not coming in to like light you up from the outside. So it might be, he might get himself some more minutes that way, and it might also be a situational play.
Yeah, I'll give you guys one comment on Iowa State, is that Iowa State was going really hard after Javon Hadley, and they thought he was going to commit to Iowa State. Like they thought he was in the fold. And he was going to be like the crown jewel of their transfer class. And I know Iowa State's not like the biggest basketball school in the world, but like they play some damn good basketball. And like TJ,
they got it going on.
Yeah, dude. And like Otts he's not a joke. Like he's a great coach, and they have a really good eye for talent. And they thought he was going to be the crown, and he's number 5 on our list. So I feel good about that.
So deep, this team, so deep. So we'll go on to the top 4, and I think this is where like you got a big mix between. I think all of these guys got to vote for number 1 from somebody. So number 4 on our list, Corin Johnson. He was my favorite ad of the offseason. 6'2" guard out of Washington. He'll be a junior this year. Was a 6th man of the year in the Pac-12. Little under 25 minutes, 11 points, 2.7 assists, 2 rebounds, a little bit over a steal, 44% from the field, 37% from three-point range, 72% from the free throw range. Next year, I have him over 20 minutes, upping his points per game by a little bit at 11.5, over 2 assists per game, about 2 rebounds, a steal, and 1.2 turnovers. I know this is Kyle's probably favorite player, so I'll let him go first on what he expects from Koren Johnson.
I don't know if I'll get a word in over my daughter who's behind me, but Koren Johnson is the best player on the team. That's my hot take. No disrespect to Fats, who's really good. It's not a slight. That's the thing. It's not that I think Edwards isn't a good player.
It's just how deep the talent is.
Koren Johnson, to me, is an elite defender. He is an incredible offensive player when he's on fire, which the last month of the season, he averaged almost 19 points a game at a Pac-12 school, Pac-12 Sixth Man of the Year. As long as he continues to work hard, I think he takes a leap. And I think one other reason people sleep on him right now is because he was the last person to arrive. So when those first reports came out, this player's crushing it, that player's crushing it. Scoring corner wasn't even here yet.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to come in as long as he stays healthy. That's the big thing because he did have that injury he struggled with. But he had played the last month of the season with that shoulder injury and crushed it. So if he has the work ethic of a guy like a James Scott, for example, this is my guy. That's my hot take. I know it's a hot take. I actually think this is going to end up being our best player, even though he may not even start for this team.
Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to say something similar to what I said for Waterman. Like, Waterman is a New York basketball player. Koren Johnson's a Seattle point guard. Like, we obviously
love those Seattle point guards, man.
Right. Like, we obviously have pretty good luck with them. They've done pretty well in the NBA. Like, we could go through a long list of Seattle point guards in the NBA. So I like that, like, mentality he brings. And then, like Kyle mentioned, Pac-12 Sixth Man of the Year and really came on as the season ended. And if he can take that last 5 or 6 games and translate that into his sophomore year, I mean, he really could be our best player. I do agree with Kyle. It's just, is he going to make that leap? I don't know.
Yeah. Any thoughts before we go on, Ross?
No, I had him a little lower. I think he's going to be a player that is obviously going to make his impact felt certain situations this year, but I think he's a player that can get lost in the sauce this year. I'm not as sold on him as a defender. I'm not as sold on him being able to be a second leading point guard in this system.
His defense is elite now, Ross.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. There's something about it. I just got to see. I'm worried that he's a guy that has all the skill set available, but he's going to struggle with that transition from Washington to like this system this year, and the step up in competition.
All right, so before we hit the top 3, I'm going to say a couple thoughts.
Ty is cooking right now.
One, all right, this is my comp Louisville player for Koren Johnson. Not exactly the same, but bulldog mentality. And I know he wasn't popular here, but he reminds me of a Chris Jones type player. Gets after it on the defensive end, can score, is a combo guard that can. Again, I am like you, Ross, a little worried about point guard behind Chucky, but I think he handles the ball well and can find his teammates. And number 2, when I was looking at all this, one of my favorite things to do was thinking about 2-man game type situations and to expand on that defense that Ross doesn't think he's going to be very good at. I'm so excited to see him and Chucky pressuring the other backcourt. I think it'll be the best defensive duo in the backcourt we've had here since Russ and Peyton. But we'll go on to the top 3. Again, the top 4 were all pretty close, and each person had a number one. So this guy was number one on somebody's list. Kayshawn Pryor, 6'10" forward, fifth year out of South Florida, 13 points, almost 2 assists, almost 8 rebounds, over a steal, under a block, 1.7 turnovers, 45% from the field, 35% from three. Another really good free throw shooter at 81.5%. I've got him for a little bit less minutes, a little bit less points at about 10, an assist, 6.3 rebounds, just under a steal. I know this was your guy, Josh, so I'll let you start off with your thoughts on him.
Yeah, I think the talent is obvious. Like, if you watch his film, I know we said this about Waterman, but like he looks like a guard that grew into a forward's body. Like, he can handle the ball, put the ball on the floor. He's a pretty good outside shooter. He's not like a great outside shooter, but he's capable. But like, man, the edge that he brings to the game is the thing that like I'm so excited to have somebody like that on the squad. Like, I won't say that he's got like a Dennis Rodman type attitude, but like it's a somewhat similar type of personality where like he's going to get in your head. He's like, if he dunks on you, like you're going to hear about it. And I think we've been missing something like that for a while. So I'm excited to see him, and I think you can't really argue the talent that he has.
Shit, I mean, if he catches you slipping on a backdoor pass and he makes that assist, he's going to let you hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
sure.
He is that type of dude.
This is probably the guy I was most excited to land because he came out of left field when I thought he was leaning elsewhere. So I'm excited about Pryor. Like you alluded to his ability to handle the basketball at his size. He can shoot a respectable range at the three. 82% free throw shooter is nuts. And
for a big man, that's good.
I mean, yeah, I'm excited about it. He's a stud. And I mean, I had him at number 3, so that kind of worked out, but it was not because he's not good enough to potentially be the best player on a team. I just think there's a couple of others that will end up being even better.
Yeah. I think the key here, man, like you said, that 82% free throw percentage, that means he's a guy in a close game that you can keep on the court at the end of the game, which is big because you watch the NBA and there's guys who are really talented that can't shoot free throws that you have a hard time putting out there in the games. So that's huge for a guy his size to be able to do that. And It's crazy that we have 2 guys on this team in Pryor and Waterman that can dribble and take the ball to the bucket the way they can at their size, man. I can't name the last guy that can do what they can do at their size in this program. Maybe like a Ray Spalding. I don't know, man. It's tough to remember somebody that has the ball handling skills of those 2 guys.
Well, I think it's just it's a testament to how the game is changing, and the roles of big players are changing. Like, you're looking for big men that have more of a guard and like wing skill set going forward. I mean, it's that international game kind of like just leaking into all levels of basketball over here in the States. So I will say that with Pryor, I mentioned it earlier. I think that him and James Scott's skill set are really going to benefit one another. And I foresee them getting most of the starting minutes by the end of the year, barring something tragic doesn't happen. Looking at Pryor and where we spent NIL dollars, anybody that plays fantasy sports, whether it's a dynasty league or like how you draft, Kayshawn Pryor is a player that the staff has put a lot of stock in as far as money and value. So in order for us to be successful this year, we're going to need him to produce this year. And that's why a big reason, red tinted glasses on, I had him ranked so high in my standings, is because he has to produce. We have a lot of resources dedicated in him, and we need him to produce. And I think that he is a guy that will benefit from the elevation and competition, and his skills will come through. So, I think he's going to have all the minutes in the world allotted to him this year, and all the chances allotted to him to be an awesome talent this year.
Yeah. All right. So we're down to the final two. And coming in at number 2, the Fro game, Chucky Hepburn, our point guard for next year, 6'2", played at Wisconsin, another veteran guy, senior. Played a lot of minutes at Wisconsin, averaged 9 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. A dynamite defender as a all Big Ten first team defense with 2 steals. Shot 43% from the field, 32% from 3. Solid free throw shooter at 74%. Was an all Big Ten honorable mention, made the all Big Ten tournament team. I think he's going to get the most minutes on the team with 29 and a half, because we don't have another true point guard behind him. But about 9 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, almost 2 steals, and only about a turnover a game. Ross, I know this was your number 1 guy, so I'll let you start off with your thoughts on Chucky.
Yeah, this dude's an effing dog. Okay, like, this guy is a winner. He is going to win you ball games in multiple different ways. He doesn't have to score a point, and he's going to make his presence felt on the effect of the game. Seeing as where we are right now and looking at how the staff was recruiting, we were looking at a Hawkins, but if we weren't going to possibly add a Hawkins, there was another guard that they were possibly looking to add. To me, that shows, the staff still believes that maybe there's some room for improvement in the backcourt. You look at the roster, and Chucky Hepburn is our point guard on this team. In the college game, the game goes as guards go, as point guards go, and you got to have superior guard play. This kid is the most important kid on the entire team. He's got the weight of the team resting on his shoulders. Therefore, to me, he is the most important player. I think he will rise to the occasion, and he will be the most impactful player to this roster this year, even more so than the consensus number 1, who is going to be our bucket. I think Chucky Hepburn just brings so much to the game defensively. You just can't. There's some things that you just cannot put into an account statistically, and he's one of those players, and he's my number 1.
I think he's going to be a solid player. He's a great addition to have. He brings much needed experience. I have him lower than a lot of people. I have him at 4, but it's more about the impact other guys have. I feel like Chucky's a really good defender. He's not known as a scorer on offense, not an incredible shooter. So
He
he's
showed
more
in the
about
Big Ten tournament and in the tournament that he can go get a bucket, though.
He can,
I
but he also had some dead games in the tournament where he hardly. So he's gonna be a guy who has a 2 or 3 20-point games, but he'll also have quite a few like 3-4 point games, 5-point games, and that's why his averages out to about 9 points a game. But he's a player that is very consistent as far as his defense goes, distributing the basketball. So I could see him being the guy that gets the most minutes on the team. I will say that.
Yeah.
And he's a good passer. So he can see the court very well. I'm really happy about him. I guess the only reason I have him a little lower than the others is because of the offensive production.
And the biggest thing too, like, I think he takes care of the ball. Like, he doesn't turn the ball over. Like, you want that in a point guard. Like, when he has the ball in his hands, you're confident that he's not going to turn the ball over. Like, I watched him in the Big Ten tournament, like, heavily. I watched him heavily in that because I was such a Purdue naysayer. And I watched him in the big dance, and I know they got upset in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. But like, he is great with the ball in his hand, man. Like, he is exactly what this team. You put all those playmakers around him, everything's gonna go, man. Everything's gonna go.
Yeah, I just want to make a really quick point. We talked about Kenai Ruth being like a lottery ticket. Chucky Hepburn's like the furthest from that you could get, probably. He's a 3-year starter in the Big Ten. He's got a 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio almost. I mean, he's about as solid as you can get, or as guaranteed as you can get getting a transfer. So I think you know exactly what you're going to get from him, and he's going to be very solid.
Dude's going to make a ton of money overseas.
Yeah. Yeah, if you all can't tell, Ross fell in love when he went to meet Chucky at the airport earlier this year.
He's gonna make a ton of money for a long time overseas, man. He's a good player.
I love Chucky. Like I said, man, defense. He's gonna hound the other team's best perimeter player, and I'm gonna love it, man, because I love some defense. But we're going to conclude our top 11 here with the number one, and he was number one in multiple people's top 11, and that's our first non-College of Charleston commitment in the offseason, Terrence Edwards, 6'6", might spend some time at shooting guard, might spend some time at small forward. 190 pounds, a fifth-year guy out of James Madison, averaged 17 points, 3.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, almost a steal. Did turn the ball over 2.5 times, 43% from the field, 34% from three-point range. Another excellent free throw shooter at 81%. All kinds of accolades. He was the Sun Belt Player of the Year, was obviously on the first team of the Sun Belt. He was a Lute Olson All-America team, which means that he was a finalist for the Lute Olson Player of the Year, which includes all players at the Division I level. And he was also a 2023-24 Lou Henson All-America team member. And the Lou Henson Award is given to the best mid-major player. And it was won by the kid that killed Kentucky in the tournament. That I can't think of his name.
Or I can't remember his name.
No, the other kid, the big kid, Townsend, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah. But I have Terrence this year averaging about 29 minutes, almost 15 points, 2.5 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers, and a little bit under a steal per game. He was my number one. I think this guy is Ross thinks Chucky's the most important. I think this guy's the most important player on the team because he's the one guy on the team that I think can go get a bucket and can be that dude. And I think you have to have that if you want to make a run in the tournament. And this guy is going to be the guy in crunch time in a close game that we are going to run the offense through. I'm pumped. I think he's a better defender than people think he is. I think he can guard, the 1 through 4. He's not a Chucky Hepburn level defender or a Pryor level defender when you're guarding the bigger guys, but I think he's a solid defender. He does a bunch of everything. He's a good passer, sees the court well. I think he's going to be our best player, and I think we are going to need him to be our best player if we want to reach the levels that us as fans want U of L to reach this year. What do you guys think?
Stephen McGovern says that he reminds him of Francisco Garcia, and I do see that
I
comp a
agree.
lot.
That for sure.
That was one when we first went over a bunch of
Yeah.
comps with him. It didn't cross my mind and should have. But if you're going to do a former Louisville comp, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I mean, we're a Louisville pod, so we're going to do it. And that would be the closest comp. I mean, their games aren't perfectly matched, obviously. No comp is, but I like the comp. I do think this is going to be – I think he'll be our second best player, but that's no disrespect to him. He could easily be our best player. He really could. It wouldn't surprise me. But I just think Corn's going to take a huge leap based on the last month of last year. And I think his defense is a little better. But this is a kid here that he could end up being your best player, can get you a bucket when you need it, like Pat said. And he has the length to play multiple positions, the ball handling skills to do it. Can't wait to see him out there.
Yeah, I know. The Francisco Garcia comparison is one that has actually crossed my mind before. Just looking at how they're built and their mindset on the game and how they like to make their presence felt on the game. It is very similar. The only reason that I put Chucky Hepburn ahead of Terrence Edwards, I had Terrence Edwards number 2. The only reason I put him number 2 and I put Chucky number 1 was that I think that Terrence Edwards is going to thrive in this system, in a system that's going to get him a lot more opportunities and open shots and a lot of drive-by baskets. So
Blackshear, come on, Trent.
I think there's obviously going to be times where Terrence Edwards is going to be one-on-one and he's going to have to go and get a bucket, and he's going to do that for sure. But I think in this system, I think the whole point is to keep the ball moving, and I think Terrence Edwards is going to be a guy where his one-on-one ability, while is very, very good and still relied upon, maybe will be relied upon a little bit less than it was at James Madison last year. And I think that Chucky Hepburn is going to be an important part in that and getting guys, open shots. So that's just where my mindset was at. I think you can't go wrong with either one. Terrence Edwards is for sure going to be our guy. When you want a basket, go get a basket. But we're going to be relying heavily on the system to get guys open and for guys to not be ball hogs and move the ball. And the system is going to feed players into giving them their opportunities, and they got to capitalize when those opportunities come.
Trent, brother, if the world remaining intact and not ending depends on you and me finding a comp that we agree on, the world's over, brother. Like, me and you are just we're never on the same page.
I don't see Wayne Blackshear. I love
I loved Wayne too.
I
like
love
Wayne, but
Wayne.
They're different. Yeah,
They're very different, in my opinion.
I think Terrence Edwards is a lot more like crafty in the lane. Like, he's very creative around the basket. Like, honestly, I I do think the Francisco comparison is good here because
Cisco was
I
crafty.
disagree, Trent. Like, I think Cisco was smooth, but like that's the same vibe I get from Terrence Edwards. Like, he's very crafty and smooth in the lane, and
he's
got
a guy. He's a guy that you think and you trust that can go and get his own basket when the system breaks down. But he's also a guy that you know and you trust that can thrive in a system, you know, to play within a system. That's like that. Terrence Edwards is that guy, and Francisco was that guy.
Yeah. I just think it's like deceptive length is how I would describe it.
And like Steven said here, you know, and I agree with him, I don't see a ball hog on this team. We all pass the ball very well. Yeah, I think that's the key here. I don't think there are any guys that are going to throw fits about getting the ball on this team.
And if we're seeing ball hogs on this team, then we got a problem, because this system is laid out in a way where you should not have that problem. Everybody's going to get their chances.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that concludes our.
Trent said he's too young to watch this. Oh, Lord. All right, I'm feeling old.
That concludes our top 11. So here's our rankings per person. Obviously, you know, some we agreed on, some we did not. Anybody have any final thoughts on, you know, maybe guys that you thought the rest of us had ranked too low, too high? What do you guys think?
I think people are sleeping on Traore.
Yeah, I think people are sleeping on Rain Smith, dude. I just don't think there's anybody that can do what he does. Like, 3-point shooting is so important in a Pat Kelsey offense. Like, there's going to be games where, you know, it's our other players are inconsistent 3-point shooters. Like, he's very reliable. Like, he's made 10 threes in a game before. Like, he's going to be extremely important. And as someone who, like, knows this offense, like, I just feel like he's going to have a lot more value, especially for this year's team.
I can see that. I can see that for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, Josh, because, you know, Ross mentioned Traore. Everybody had Traore from 4 to 6, and everybody had Rain Smith from about 8 to 9, except for you, who had Traore down at 8 and Rain Smith up at 5. So you were the big contrarian with those two.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's really hard when you get guys 4 through 8. 5 through 8 in particular. 5 through 10, you could even argue, because some think James Scott's going to be like really good. And I think he's a year away from being like in that top 4 or 5, but we could all be wrong. And of course, I feel like I pushed Core into the top 5 just with my number 1 ranking. Otherwise, I think he finishes about 7th.
No, I mean, I had him 4. Josh had him 4. Connor had him 3. Ty had him 4. The only person that had him down the list was Ross. Had him at 7.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm looking at it. It's hard to see it on my screen, so that's why I said that. I can't really tell. But yeah, I feel like that's probably really a hot take, though. Terrence Edwards is a safe bet. If I was putting money on it, I bet Terrence Edwards. But if I'm putting what I truly think in my heart on it, I think Corn's going to be that guy.
Yeah. And then before we go on to football real quick, so, you know, I had projected stats for everybody, and I want you to see how hard this was, because I have our College of Charleston stats from last year down there. So you had to get to 200 minutes with these guys, which is incredibly hard with all the minutes they played. And I actually have us averaging more than Charleston that last year, because I think talent's better. I know the talent we're playing is going to be better, but I think when you add in the pace and the talent of the guys we've got, I think we're going to average around 85 points, which would be about top 15, top 20 in the country. Kentucky led last year at almost 90 points per game. But but I tried to keep everything else kind of similar. I think this team's got a lot of passers, so I think we'll get a lot of assists in this system. I think we've got a lot of good perimeter defenders, and we'll get a good amount of steals. But yeah, no, man, it was difficult doing projected stats when you have to look at these guys that played 30 minutes a game, and you've got 7, 8 guys that played about 30 minutes per game at their previous schools. And that's going to be impossible to do here.
We need a couple of guys, which I think Terrence Edwards will be one of them, but we need a couple of guys to consistently be the dude. And the question becomes, who else besides Terrence Edwards can be the guy that you can get the ball to? You need at least 2. That I think all these guys are capable scorers, but as far as just taking over a game and dominating at times, you need that, especially down the stretch. And you prefer to have more than one guy that's capable of doing it. That's where I'm looking at you, Corin Johnson, as that guy.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I'm looking at you, Keshawn Pryor. Like the amount of resources we have invested in you for this team to make that to be that second weekend team, he has to be that type of player. He has to, because you have so much invested in him in that regard.
Yeah.
All right, boys. I think that does it.
That does it for the basketball. We're gonna quickly do the football stuff because we're pushing a lot of time here. And I know in the past somebody's been like, you can't worry about time, but that's easy to say when you don't have to wake up and take your kids places at 7 a.m. So
I mean, Kyle runs a farm out there in southern Indiana, so
yeah, I really do, and it sucks getting up at 6 and doing all that, but that's a whole different ball game. So anyway.
You mean you get up at 4:35 before the sun comes in?
No, I actually don't do that. No, I get up about 6, but that's early enough when it's already what time is it? About 11. So anyway, that being said, we did have some football news. Jake Cook unfortunately decommitted, and we kind of see it coming because we had been hearing that Ohio State was turning up the heat on his recruitment, that he was potentially planning a visit. And Ohio State is about 20 minutes away. So, I mean, I can't fault him. I don't like the whole thing, and I did tweet it out. But I'm tired of hearing these guys say they're 1,000% committed or 100% committed. Like, no, you're not. Just say you're committed. Mm-hmm. Just say you're committed, because if you're 100% committed, there's no chance that you're going to decommit. But it wouldn't even bother me if it wasn't for the fact that you see it all the time in recruiting. Like, just say you're committed. Just leave it there, man. But we also got some news. CJ may be visiting again very soon. So if CJ May, who is a 4-star player on the defensive side, he would be a big get. This will be his second visit in about 5 or 6 weeks. And that is a big guy. That's the kind of guy we need to get in high school. If we can land a few more guys like that in high school, and then a few diamonds in a rough that have potential that you can develop, and then put impact portal guys on top of that, that would be awesome. So, and I know there's a couple other guys that are looking at maybe getting here as well. I think Josh Johnson was the other guy that is going to be visiting. The guy that just committed recently, he committed last week. Penn State was really pushing him hard. I think Syracuse is pushing for him. But Josh Johnson is a guy I hope we can really keep in the fold, because that's another one. So I'm disappointed in the Jake Cook stuff, but I'm not surprised.
Can I, since we're talking about recruiting tidbits, can I share
for the donation, by the way, man?
Yeah,
so we fought together against KP Hire and we failed, just not meant to be.
So keep saying opposite stuff, because we don't want you to agree on something that nobody else agrees on, and then we end up hiring somebody that you all don't like.
Yes.
And since we're talking again, since we're talking about recruiting tidbits, can I share something? I don't think it's like super exclusive, but pretty much have known since the spring game that Isaac Souls, the local kid here in Louisville, he was not coming to Louisville. People around the program won't tell you that. His camp's not going to tell you that. The kid wasn't coming to Louisville. He was never coming to Louisville. today, and then we had the news with his visit or not a visit happening this week. Like, he was never coming here. So I don't want anybody to put credence on Braum and the staff for not pursuing this, because the kid wasn't coming here. He was never going to come here. And I can tell you today, literally today, his dad had a nifty UK hat on. He was spotted with a nifty UK hat on. So,
is there such a thing?
Yeah. I mean,
the annoying thing about it is I don't care where the kid goes, but like the kid keeps trying to present this victim mentality that the staff just dropped him like a rock. And then I know he retweeted the Jake Cook thing and was like, some things are meant to be or whatever when Jake Cook decommitted. He clearly doesn't like Louisville.
Well,
but the whole thing is, don't present yourself as not liking Louisville and then guilt Louisville for not recruiting you. Like, no, we're not going to recruit somebody.
I think that's all coming from UK, man. I think they are telling the kid to do that because they want to be viewed as owning the state, coming in to Louisville, picking up kids. That's how Morrow and Stoops operate, man.
Well,
that's what gets them their jollies.
Never coming here, like Ross said.
Part of it. That's part of it, but it's also in the kid's best interest to make it look like he is a victim, like you're talking about, Kyle.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Again, this is all speculation. Okay? But from what I know, and they're pretty good contacts, he was never, ever coming to Louisville. So we just basically said, and our staff said, we're not going to waste any more time recruiting you. And then once that happens, then you get from their side, we're canceling this visit. We didn't cancel the visit. U of L canceled the visit, blah, 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 blah. And, it makes it look like the U of L didn't want you. It's their camp and them trying to save face in the fact that they don't want to take on the negative recruiting factor of they're a hometown kid that didn't want to go to the hometown school.
Well,
and that is exactly what it is.
Dumb, because all they would have to do is not ever express interest in Louisville, and nobody would notice it. Nobody would know. The only reason we're talking about it right now is because of the retweeting Jake Cook's decommitment, the victim mentality. Oh, Louisville's the one that canceled this and that. Okay. If a woman's not interested in me and I'm a single guy, I'm married, thankfully. But if I'm out there trying to pursue some woman and she keeps turning me down, when I finally move on to other women, she doesn't get to turn around and go, well, he just quit trying to get with me.
But it from a recruiting standpoint, it does you a lot of good from your side to play it up like you're the victim, like you're being done wrong, because then it's going to make you more appealing to the next staff that is.
I don't think
maybe I don't know.
They either want him or they don't. I think his talent on the field is all they care about. This is all just games to, I guess.
Yeah.
Stick it to Louisville.
I know, but I don't know what their mentality.
I don't know what
absolutely matters.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing I took away from that.
Be like, well, I'm going to recruit. I'm going to let this guy come here now because Louisville did him wrong. That's not a thing. I mean, if people don't think you're good enough, they're not going to
like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
the one thing,
drama. It's unnecessary drama.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I took away from this week recruiting was, I mean, losing Cook stinks, but it's that Braum does not take shit and play games, man, because he shut down LeBron Hill going to Kentucky real quick. LeBron Hill, the wide receiver commit, said he was going to go visit Kentucky, and I'm sure that Braum said, you do that, then you're no longer committed here and don't have a scholarship, because
And we're speculating, but that wouldn't be surprising.
Right. And then you
We
add
don't
this.
know that, but we're just guessing.
And you add this because what I've heard on Souls is that he did not want to come on a weekend visit. He wanted to spend his weekend visits elsewhere and wanted to come during the week. And again, our staff was like, "No, man, you're visiting when we had it scheduled. We're not, that's our recruiting weekend." So, and again, this is all hearsay. I'm not talking to Jeff Brom, but my thoughts on that are that Brom isn't playing games with these kids. And I think part of that is because of all the crap we went through this portal season.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we don't
and
want that.
That might be part of it. But even if none of that even happens, like Jeff Brom is not stupid. This staff is not stupid. Like you got a local kid that's saying, I want to come and visit you during the week. Like they're saving their weekends for somebody bigger than you, who they think is bigger than you. And we're not playing that. We're not playing that. Like, no, like you want to visit us, you use your weekend. We'll roll out the carpet for you. But if you ain't about it, then you ain't about it. Like,
that's where I don't get the victim mentality. Like you're drawing unnecessary attention. Like just let it go, man. Like if you don't want to come here, why would you even be bothered by us saying, okay, just forget about it altogether? Like, okay, and even if you just tweet once, like, okay, we moved on, fine, but like, let it go. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to bring him up tonight, but he came up.
Well, I mean, it's important. It's important
like to me, it's not worth bringing up guys that don't want to be here.
He's a bigger prospect locally, and he is a local prospect. Like it is worth talking about. It is absolutely worth talking about.
Yeah, he's a 17-year-old kid, so it's like he's got a camp, and they're telling him what to say and do too. So I don't want to be too hard on him. I mean, I was doing really dumb stuff at 17. But I do think it's kind of silly that he's dragging this on and presenting it the way he is, but whatever.
Yeah, I think this week just made it feel it just made you feel even like more relief that he's someone who we wish all the best, but he's not going to end up at Louisville. Right?
I couldn't do it. Basketball recruiting would be hard enough for my patience level. I would be the worst football recruiter in the country. I have no patience for BS. I have none. Yeah. And you have to be completely patient with BS all the time. Like, I'm the kind of dude, like, nobody's want to play for me because the second you tell me you're 1,000% committed and then I get word that you're even thinking about visiting somewhere else, I'm like, well, you just broke your word. Get out. They'd be like, whoa, calm down, brother. They all do that. You can't just get rid of them all. Everyone.
You have nobody left.
So I don't know how you guys do it, like coaching staff. I have no idea how you can handle all that. Like, y'all have a lot more patience than I would ever have.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've touched on a lot tonight. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark, and I think we're going to call it a wrap. Do you guys have any final thoughts about anything before we go off the air?
I wanted to highlight your hat, Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Off your hat.
Put it up close to the camera, man.
Yeah, this is the black version. I am going to get the red because our logo's red, but the black looks nice because it'll match literally anything. Yeah. So it's more of the sharp look. So that's our logo on there, and I want to wear it for the pod. I'll be wearing it, but I'm also got one on back order with the red logo, and I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, so I got this exact hat, like same. I mean, no different, except it has our logo right here.
Yeah.
So that's coming eventually, but yeah, I was so jealous when Kyle's came in early. I think.
Yeah. Thanks to my wife. My wife got it for me for Father's Day. So props to Rebecca for doing that.
Yeah, I was just about to give her credit, so I'm glad you did it. I don't want to be the one doing that. No. Yeah, I think that was an awesome surprise, and I think we were all jealous when we saw it. So I ordered mine, so I'll have mine in hopefully for the next show. But go Cards.
Yeah, and once we get once these guys get into the creative kitchen, which I can't be in because I'm not creative enough, and that's my decision, not these guys. I think
don't sell yourself short, Pat.
We'll have some merchandise, hopefully for sale, that you guys can buy, third banner merchandise down the road. So this is little previews of stuff that hopefully will be able to make public to you guys. But yeah, no, I had fun going over the roster tonight, guys. Josh, thanks for taking that information and putting it into those slides. I liked your disappearing players as we went through the list. Very cool and creative. But yeah, man, awesome show. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go Cards.
Go Cards. Go Kroger, baby.